So let's talk a little bit about some of the players the Illini have gotten signed here today on December 20th, 2023. Start off with Andrew Dennis, big offensive lineman, 6'5", 275. Other offers included Clemson, Michigan State, Penn State, Auburn, Georgia Tech, Kentucky, Louisville, Missouri, Nebraska, and Purdue. This was one that the Illini really beat out a lot of tough competition for. Ked, what are your thoughts on Andrew Dennis?
I'm gonna start right away with what you just said. I mean, they beat out a lot of great teams for him. They got a big 6'5" kid out of Michigan. That tells you how good he is. He committed to Illinois in November. And the whole situation with him, he may be the gem of the class, or one of the gems, which we'll talk about quite a few kids. But I think him personally, I mean, if you're into the star system, he's a 4-star kid. Mike and Matt. But he's a kid that I think by the time after he redshirts and he's a redshirt freshman or sophomore, I probably expected to see this kid on the field. He's going to enroll sometime in the spring, so this was a really big get. And if you again, like you mentioned, the schools that were after him, that tells you how good of a prospect he really is. And it was a big get for Brett Bielema.
The last time Illinois recruited a kid, or I'm sorry, got a signing from a kid that rated this high was Martin O'Donnell.
Wow.
So that he's the highest rated offensive lineman in the modern era for Illinois. If Mel Tucker doesn't execute the most expensive bag dropping in the history of college football, I don't know if Illinois gets this kid. But he did, and Brett Bielema was able to pounce on it very, very quickly and effectively, and get a kid that I think that they think can play potentially all three offensive line positions if possible. I imagine that since he's going to be here in the spring, and start his development in April, I think there's a possibility he could be on the travel roster for the 2024 season. I'm not suggesting he's going to get on the field and be put in that situation, but Bart Miller likes to travel with 10 offensive linemen, and I'm not entirely convinced that A.J. Dennis isn't going to be one of those 10.
So overall, you take a look at this guy. How many years do each of you think he's going to project potentially as a starter for the Illini?
I mean, when it's hard to say, what these kids will do. I mean, a lot of these coaches, they trust their eye, they trust their development and their talent. But I think this kid pans out and he does, what they think he can do. I mean, I think by the time this kid's a sophomore, he can potentially be an honorable mention All Big Ten type player.
I have concerns about AJ in the sense that this staff really likes their interior offensive lineman to be over 300 pounds. So I need to see him get some development with Tank Wright in the weight room before I'm able to project how many years he's going to start, because I really think that they think he's an interior offensive lineman. But if he can effectively get over the 300-pound mark by the time that he's maybe a third-year sophomore, I think he starts from then on. And I'm again, I think that he could potentially start his development in 2024 by being on the travel roster. And if he doesn't see the field, because Illinois is not going to play 10 offensive linemen in a game, but also just see the field and travel and get all that experience, I don't think that 2025 is necessarily too early for him to be projected as competing for a starting spot.
Excellent. A big win for the Illini, and we're all looking forward to Andrew Dennis making it on the field.